All right, I'm hearing no objections, so I'm going to go grab a coin. All right, we'll have either Lillian or Joyce call. So if you want heads or tails.
Heads.
Heads. All right. All right. It is tails. I don't know if you can see that very well. So Leo and Michael get to pick.
Michael, do you want to do pro or con? Let's do pro, okay, Michael?
Wait, no. Yeah, sure. Let's do pro.
Okay, we're pro.
All right. So Leo and Michael on pro, and then Lillian and Joyce on con. And then correct me if I'm wrong, because Douglas sent me this information. You can't always trust it. So the resolution is the benefits of hosting the Olympics outweigh the harms. Is that correct? Solid. All right. So we'll get a timer out, and you can.
Who's going first and who's going second?
I think pro goes first. Right?
Okay.
We usually so the person who picks the side they want, that team, the other team gets to choose if they want to go first or second.
Sure. So do you want to go first or second, Joyce and Lillian?
Lillian, you answer.
Second.
Second. All right. It's been a while since I've been involved in public forum, so the formats get all mixed up.
Michael, it's your turn.
So I don't. When should I start?
Let's see. Basically, just whenever you're ready. I have a timer that I'll have up ready, and I'll just start it whenever you enter the speech,
Sometimes the Olympics seem like a bad thing, but the Olympics are actually really, really good, and they do a lot in the world. For example, the Olympics give an opportunity for the host city and country to show themselves to the world. And not only that, but the Olympics also sometimes can give a lot of money to the country. For example, Wikipedia.com says that the 1984 Summer Olympics is considered the most financially successful modern Olympics. This is because Los Angeles strictly controlled the expenses and used some of the extra profits to endow the LA84 Foundation, which promotes youth sports in Southern California. Also, Britannica Procon.org says that the Olympics increase tourism, which can boost local economies. For example, England welcomed more than one visitor every second in June 2013 after the 2012 London Olympics. These tourists also spent more, $12.1 billion in the first half of 2013. Also, the Olympics create happiness in the people, or national pride. According to a global poll, most of the people in 18 of 21 countries said that their nation's performance at the Olympics was important to their national pride. Also, this pride is very special, so it is not usually replaceable by other things. And also, host countries usually get invited to famous global economic organizations. According to economics professors Robert A. Bod, PhD, and Victor A. Matheson, PhD, the very act of bidding for the Olympics serves as a credible signal that a country is committing itself to trade liberalization that will permanently increase trade flows. And finally, Big sporting events usually require building stadiums and hotels. Economicshelp.org says that this creates jobs for the local economy for up to 4 years before the event. These extra jobs help create a positive multiplier effect within the local economy. Some argue this temporary job boost can prove more permanent if the economic regeneration continues after the games. Oh, finished.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. Then we'll move to the con.
Can I start? The reason why you shouldn't be hosting the Olympics is because it costs way too much money. Studies show that it costs like billions of dollars just to build the stadiums, and even more to build the special lanes for executives and important people. Taxes are also raised to pay for the Olympics, and that creates a bad situation for the poor because they might not be able to afford to pay those taxes. And research says that every game in the last 50 years have gone over budget. The Olympics is also short term, and it wastes apartments and stadiums when hosting the Olympics, and it's really not worth it to just host the Olympics. And they destroy buildings to get the space for the stadiums, and according to an article from Business Insider, it says that much of the Olympic infrastructure is abandoned or underused, including the 700 million athletes village that was supposed to be turned into luxury condos once the game was over. And yeah, finish.
It's crossfire time, right?
Yep. So you can go ahead and jump into Crossfire.
Wait, Crossfire is asking other teams questions, right?
Yep. So you both have the opportunity to ask each other questions, typically on like a 1-for-1 type thing. Yeah. And you'll have 3 minutes to do it.
Okay. Wait, against the other team or against the other team?
Yep. So it'll be okay. You and Joyce will be questioning each other.
Oh, okay.
But I think that your partners can kind of jump in if you can't figure out an answer and they have one. Got it? All right. Yeah. You can go ahead and start Crossfire when you're ready.
So.
Do either of you have questions for each other?
I mean,
it's okay to not have questions, but one thing, like you can ask argumentative questions, like why do you think this is the case? You can ask clarification questions, like what's the citation for some information they had? There's a lot you can ask, right? So even if it's just asking for evidence pieces, just go ahead and try asking a question or two.
Usually how much are the taxes raised?
Well, for the poor, it's already hard enough for them to afford things like food, like if they're homeless. And then if the taxes raise even more, it doesn't really matter how much it raises. It causes more hardships for them to buy essential things.
To answer that question, it says that in total, they have collected $45 billion as taxes from everyone who lives in the country. So that can show that it really takes a lot of money to host the Olympics.
Also, where do you get the information again?
We got it from a Business Insider.
For the tax one?
Investopedia.
Huh. Okay.
And Joyce and Lillian, remember that you can ask.
Do you know on average how much money they spend on the Olympics? The country spends on the Olympics, like.
They spend $7 to $10 billion US dollars.
Okay.
And that doesn't include the amount of money they need to build special lanes for executives and important people. But studies haven't shown yet how much that totally costs.
Okay.
I have that as time for Crossfire.
Okay, it's done.
So you said that it takes a lot of money. However, you said that the Olympics take a lot of money to fund. However, the 1984 Summer Olympics was very financially successful. This shows that it's possible for Olympic Games to not take like super duper much money. And also, some of the money that was left over was created the Los Angeles 84 Foundation, which promotes youth sports in Southern California. Also, you said that the poor people suffered from taxes. but like the people that are poor get a lot of money from and could get money from jobs that are provided by the Olympics. And also, you said that some places had been destroyed. However, that's likely just the problem for those people. Like, and the people that own those places, they just it's probably possible to turn those things into useful places in the end.
All right. Then the rebuttal speech from, or the, yeah, the rebuttal speech from the con.
You said that the Olympics cause happiness in people and give an opportunity for athletes to display their skills to the world. However, that's not really specific to just hosting the Olympics. That's just the Olympics overall. And it said the benefits of hosting the Olympics outweigh the harms. So that doesn't really do anything. And you said it causes pride, but if you're losing money, pride doesn't matter as much, because if you're in debt and you're prideful, like, you have to be able to support the country. And it may cause more tourism. And you said that in 1918 they made profit, but most of the time they lost money, even with the extra tourism. Yeah, and it was only once, so most of the times they lost money. And also the waste buildings, it is possible, but sometimes they just don't know what to do with them, like the buildings, stadiums, so they could just leave it unkept, and it turns into waste, and it's wasted money, and it's very short term, because it only happens once in 4 years, and they don't host every Olympic. So and you also said the poor people could get money from jobs. Well, if they're poor and if they're like homeless and they can't find a job and they can't earn money, and the money that citizens give is very less, and if they can't find food, like, it's not very good for them. Yeah, that's it.
All right. So then we go to our second crossfire.
I don't really have any questions.
Do the cons have any questions?
No.
Wait, what was your last rebuttal argument again? If you don't remember it, that's fine.
The last one was that the poor might not have might not get any jobs, or they won't have enough money to have enough money even if they get a job.
I couldn't hear that clearly.
I said the last argument was that the poor might not get a job, or they won't get enough money from their job.
Like, is it a question or is it because like you're asking?
No, it isn't a question. Michael asked what was the last argument we made, so I answered the question.
All right, seeing that there's no further questions being asked, we can move to the summary arguments. Is it summary next? Yeah, the summary speeches if people are ready.
What summary again? It's like...
It's so after the second crossfire, the first speakers on each team will basically summarize the main issue in the debate, and then you'll continue advocating your position.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I go. So the reason why we're winning currently is because our main argument is that it's possible to make a lot of money from the Olympics, because the 1984 Summer Olympics give an example for the for that it is possible to make a lot of money from the Olympics. Also, what you said is that from the useless buildings, new tech can probably help recycle them, and the jobs provide opportunities for the poor people. Also, there are lowered taxes for poor people, for people who have lower income rate. For example, taxes are only 1.4% in New Jersey for people who have 0 to 20,000 income rate. So poor people aren't hit as much from the higher taxes as the rich people, because they probably have lower income rate than rich people. Also, and yeah, that's basically it. That was pretty short. Oh, also, to continue proving our point that the Olympics can make a lot of money, as we said before, the Olympics might help the host countries get into famous global economic organizations, which means that it will permanently increase trade flows, and you get a lot more tourists from the Olympics, like our example of England in the London after the London Olympics. As we said, these tourists also spent $12.1 billion in the first half of 2013.
All right, I have that as time for the pro summary speech. So when the con is ready to go ahead.
Okay, the reason why we shouldn't host the Olympics is because it costs too much and the taxes are raised, which means that the poor can't afford most things. And most of the games for the last 50 years have gone over budget. It is also short term, and they waste apartments and stadiums. They also destroy buildings to get the space. And they also have to build the Olympic Village, which costs a lot of the money. And just because one Olympic or two Olympic game didn't cost as much money and gained a lot of profit, that is just meaning for one or two, and it's not the whole thing, which we can't ensure that the Olympics can be continued without spending a lot of money. And it also costs a lot for the transportation, and yeah, finished.
All right, so the next part is called Grand Crossfire. So it's 3 minutes and it's all speakers. I'll start that timer now.
What's the Grand Crossfire about?
Can you ask questions?
Fire for everybody.
Oh, just asking, just crossfire. What's the thing that's after this?
It's the final focus, Michael.
Yeah, okay.
So, do you have any examples of when the taxes were raised for poor people and stuff?
There's an article in Investopedia that says the taxes do pay for the Olympics, and it's a big majority to pay using taxes, and that's basically how the Olympics can continue by raising the taxes and gaining money from it. What's the evidence that the people would make exceptions for the poor with the people with lower income, that they lower the taxes or prices?
Oh, this is called tax brackets. If you look on Google and search up tax brackets New Jersey, it'll show up the tax brackets. Because the government can't just go like, oh, 10.75% tax for everyone. They have to like make it fair for the poor people who have less income. So instead of doing the full 10.75% for extreme income ranges for the rich people, they do 1.4% for the income ranges of $0 to $20,000, and 1.75% income range for $20,000 to $35,000, and so on. You might learn this in finance class if you take that.
All right, I have that as time for the Grand Crossfire, so we can move to the final focus now.
I think we won because we've countered most of your arguments, and also you haven't really countered our argument that the Olympics can make a lot of money. That's why we win, and that's why you should vote for us.
All right, the cons.
We won because the Olympics obviously cost too much money because it's rare and hard to earn money from the Olympics, which is bad for the poor because, I mean, there's still taxes, and if it gets raised a bit, like maybe a little money to you, but each little bit, like they need money. If they have like kids or something, they have to support. Also because they destroy buildings for space, because I mean, you really have a whole bunch of space, and like, do you know, like a whole bunch of empty space that you have near you? Like, no, they have to destroy buildings to get space. And finally, because the Olympics are short term, which causes wasted buildings, which is wasted money. Yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Thank you all for participating. It's always good to see young minds at work. As I say young, I'm still kind of young, but you know, like, you know, it's all relative. So let me have a look. So final focus, and I'm guessing they want me to adjudicate and then give you a decision on who won. Is that what's been going on?
Yeah, yes, Scott, you will be the judge. You will decide who's going to advance to the next round.
All right, I'll be honest, Harrison. I got messaged from Douglas, and he didn't give me a lot of what I needed to do here. So it's good to know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, that was a timer. I will take a few minutes, decide the winner, and I'll get right back to you.
Wait, how does the second round work? Is it like still in this?
The people who won face the people who won.
But is it like now or no future?
Like right after this, like once he made his decision.
Oh, okay.
All right, I think I've come to my decision. I think I'm gonna give like a little bit of like some small amount of feedback, but before I give my decision, so you kind of get the general picture of why I chose the way I chose. So I think there's kind of like a few different ways that you can explain an argument, right? You can kind of set it in like a specific situation of explaining one example, or you can explain the general trend of what's going on. And I think in the context of the resolution, it's about if hosting the Olympics is generally a good thing. And I think that the way that the con explains the case is a lot more convincing when it comes to this specific resolution. So I think I'd sign my ballot for the cons here. Yeah, so of course it was a pretty good debate. I did like the way that the pros went through the 1984 example and the England example. But I think that the analysis from Joyce and Lillian about how these are just kind of specific, if we look towards the broader trend of how Olympics work, it goes another way. But I think that, you know, there's a lot of good skills, a lot of developing skills on both sides. So I'd like to congratulate both teams on that. I'm not sure how much time I have to go into details about more advice I can give, but I would say that a lot of debate, especially when you spend more and more time into it, comes into you need to be telling a sort of narrative or story that punctuates both the general trend and the more specific stuff. So you talk about okay, well, the general trend is that the Olympics is good for the host countries, and then here's a few examples, and it should be the same thing on both sides of the debate. I'm just more persuaded generally by the broad trend arguments, so I think that's where I end up voting. But remember that there's kind of two stories intertwined of both, you know, the specific example, but also the general trend. And I think that's what both teams should be kind of aiming at when they're going through their arguments in the future. Any questions about the decision, or, you know, what you should be doing in the future? Or if we need to get to the next debate, I don't know. Harrison, if you could answer that.
Yeah, I think that the middle high school debate is still going. So I think we can probably, I'm going to go return to the main room to see if.
Okay.
We're a little behind schedule. Okay.
So
Gotcha.
let me go to the main room and see. Oh, Kevin joined. Hey, Kevin.
Hello. I was judging the middle school PF because Dr. Pape left, so I was in the middle school PF.
Okay. Yeah, we're just trying to figure out whether the other break room or main room session has completed the first round.
Yeah, and, we just finished the first round.
Okay. So I guess we can advance to the next round now, right?
Yes, we're going to the next round.
Okay.
I think someone has a question.
Yes, Hanwoo?
What's the question?
Hanwoo is raising his or her hand.
Sorry, that might be a mistake.
Oh, that's okay.
No problem.
Gotcha. I was told by Yuming Yang that the second debate is supposed to start at 8:40, but I don't know. Are you in a different time zone than Central Time?
I'm EST.
Okay, that way makes sense. All right. Thank you. We can jump into the next debate. I don't know who's debating who here then.
The winning team is debating Frank and Yu Chen.
All right. So Joyce and Lillian versus Frank and Yu Chen. We'll do the same process as the first debate. So I will flip a coin and we'll have either Frank or Yu Chen call it. Michael and Leo, I think you're supposed to, you can stay here and watch the next debate, or you could go to the other rooms. Yeah, so you can still watch it. But yeah, so Frank or Yu Chen, if you want to call it heads or tails, say so now. I'll grab a coin.
I'd say tails.
Okay, we're flipping an American Standard Quarter. And the result is heads. So Lillian and Joyce will be selecting their side.
Since we did do cons last time, will we still be able to create the same arguments as before?
If you select cons, yes, so you would be able to present the same arguments, unless there's some rule I don't know about. I think you could, yeah.
Okay, Lillian, do you want to do cons?
Sure.
All right, and then I believe Yu Chen and Frank get to select what order they speak in. So do you want to speak first or second?
You'll speak first.
All right.
Okay. Frank, you can go for the pro arguments. I mean, contentions.
Okay. Me and my partner think that we should have the Olympics this year and in the future. And we have 3 reasons why. Our first contention is that the Olympics create a sense of national pride. This means if we don't host the Olympic Games, it would affect national spirit. In simpler words, people want to see their country win. According to a global poll from procon.org, a majority of people in 18 of 21 countries stated their nation's performance at the Olympics was important to their national pride, including 91% of Kenyans, 86% of Filipinos, and 84% of Turks. Those Kenyans, Filipinos, and Turks are equal to more than 200 million people, and there are definitely a lot of other people who agree with them. It will impact quite a lot of people worldwide. Our second contention is that the Olympics boost the local economies from its tourism. When people come to watch the Olympics live, the city gets a major economy boost since the people need to eat, a place to stay, and will probably buy a souvenir or something. This was also from procon.org. The 2016 Rio de Janeiro Summer Olympic Games had a global audience of 5 billion, with the games broadcast in 200 countries. More than 56% of the foreign visitors to Brazil for the 2016 Games were new visitors, and Brazil set tourism records with 6.6 million foreign tourists and $6.2 billion. The positive impact on the country's economy is giving a powerful boost to exports, according to academic research. The Olympics can help a city greatly if they have high poverty rates or if they're in debt. Currently, Japan has already lost 1.8 trillion yen, or $16.4 billion US dollars, postponing it. They could earn a lot back. Economic loss would be horrible for some countries. Our third contention is that the International Olympic Committee has created a rule book to keep the Olympians and spectators safe during the Games. In this contention, we're using Tokyo 2020 Olympics as an example. This rule book is intended to stop the spread of COVID-19 during the Olympics. If the procedures are followed, no one should get the virus. The official title is called The Playbook International Federations, Your Guide to a Safe and Successful Games. The playbook was developed jointly by the Tokyo Olympic Committee, and it includes rules on how to stay safe during the Olympic Games, like how to travel to the host city safely, and a test, trace, and isolate rule. These are our reasons why we should let the Olympics occur this year. I'm finished.
All right. So we have the cons up next with their constructive speech.
Cities should probably not host the Olympics. First of all, because they cost way too much. It costs billions of dollars just to host the Olympics, and it's really hard to get profit. And because it's so much money, they have to raise taxes, and that creates a bad situation for the poor because even they're already struggling with money, and then they have to pay more to get like food and essential things. And studies show that every game in the last 50 years has gone over their planned budget. And so that means they are spending way too much money on the Olympics. Second, they need space to build the stadiums and the places they live, things like that. And to do that, they need to destroy buildings that were originally there. Like, for example, do you literally have some empty space lying around? It's like, no, you have to destroy buildings to get the space to build these buildings. Third, the Olympics is very short term. So after you do all these things, the Olympics just end. You spend all this money, and then all of the buildings go to waste, which causes wasted money, and the space also goes to waste. That's it.
All right, 3 minutes for first crossfire.
So if you don't host the Olympics, it would affect national spirit, right? And what happens if it affects national spirit?
Being able to get essential things like a house and like have fun and get food and everything is more important than national spirit. And there's things like, for example, 4th of July that lifts the national spirit. So there are other things that help with that, not just the Olympics.
I do not have any more questions.
You said that there would be rule books. Well, there's what do you do with the people? Because there's always bound to be people that's not going to follow the rules. What are you going to do with them?
Well, look, see. Let's take Japan as an example again. Okay, so the Olympics, right? 2020. So they were going to like ban spectators in order to keep everyone safe from COVID-19. And the rule and that rule book was specifically for COVID-19 during the Olympics.
All right, I have that as time for first crossfire. So then the rebuttal speeches.
Okay. So I remember Lillian, I think, right? Said that it was hard to get profit from the Olympics, but that isn't exactly true because one, you already said 50 years ago, well, still 50 years ago, it still was under budget. And we already said that as our second contention, we said that the Olympics boost the local economies from its tourism. And so sometimes the tourism part, people, when they watch the Olympics live, they need, when they go there, they need food, probably a hotel, and will probably buy something. You also said, when the Olympics were, over, they're just done. There's nothing to do there. But you could actually, go to some, I don't know, some tourist attraction nearby. So it won't be a waste of money, and you could do other things there too. And you said it's also a waste of space, I remember. If the Olympic Stadium, it could be already built there, or it could be built on a place without any homes, so it doesn't have to destroy buildings. Also, instead of raising taxes, they can do other things to help get money to build the stadium and do that stuff. For example, they could raise money by they could possibly get people to just raise money for them, get people to donate to them instead of raising taxes. And that's basically it for the rebuttal.
All right, then the rebuttal from the con side.
Okay, so when you're saying about the security in the rule book, but some people might not want to wear masks, saying they are vaccinated, but and also for increasing the tourism, people can watch it on TV, which is less expensive, and it wouldn't really let the people who are watching it go to that exact country. And when you're saying that there might be spaces where houses won't be there or buildings, but what about the trees and different parts of nature? I don't think Mother Nature would be really happy to see people cutting down the trees or destroying the grounds. And when you're saying they can raise money, but is taking money still from people, and they probably won't really raise as much as needed. And when you're saying that it creates a sense of national pride. It doesn't really create that when a bunch of neighborhoods were destroyed and some people in those neighborhoods were forced to move somewhere else, away from friends and family. So that really creates a bad influence because you don't really want to be forced to move just to let people host the Olympics. And that's done.
Wait, so we're gonna have the crossfire now, right? The second crossfire. Okay. Before I go over anything else, Lillian said something about like destroying buildings if like since there isn't space. That seems a bit questionable. Can you tell me like the source where you got that information?
I got it from Institute for Policy Studies. The article is called "The Dark Side of Hosting the Olympics."
There's also a passage from an article from Business Insider, and yeah.
Okay. Also, what I meant by national pride, like when I said national pride, me and Frank, we meant that like for national pride, the people want to see their country win. So that's what I meant by national pride. And
Well,
also,
what if they don't win?
well, like, they'll probably have another country to support, right? So yeah.
Also,
another.
If a country wins or loses, it can still make money.
Okay.
Yeah, so therefore don't host the Olympics and just earn money off of attending the Olympics.
Okay. But my other question is about like the waste of money. Can you explain a bit more on that?
So for that, it takes a lot of money to build the stadiums, and I'm pretty sure that people won't be too happy to see that their money was spent on that for just a once in 4 years thing. And it also takes a lot of money to build the Olympic villages and to record the videos, and also the special lanes for executives and more important people. It also takes a lot of money just to travel to that country, no matter how close you are, and even if you live in that exact country.
I have that as time for Crossfire. So if we want to move to the summary speeches. I believe that starts with the pro side.
Frank, I think it's your turn, right?
Mm-hmm. So I think we should win because they didn't. I feel like they didn't have like that much you can like so they had pretty obvious arguments, and um they didn't they didn't cover one that much, I think. And yeah, they didn't really talk about the thing where we like make money from the tourism. So they missed that. I mean, they did, but not that much. And yeah.
All right, and then the summary from the con.
Hosting the Olympics is a bad idea because it it costs way too much money, and it's just super duper extra hard to earn money. Like you usually lose money from it, which and also because it forces people to leave their homes so they can build buildings for like the Olympic requirements and everything. And because it's short term, and if you build a stadium, you have to like keep it looking so it looks great and it's clean, and that costs a lot of money. So they usually leave it there because they don't know what to do with it, and that's wasted money. So we obviously won.
All right. So now we have the grand crossfire for 3 minutes with all speakers.
Okay. Wait.
Go ahead.
Joyce, I mean, just that your team in general. I remember you guys talking about like it takes a lot of money to build a stadium, and like at the end, I was about to respond to you with that like what if a stadium's already there already, so they don't have to waste money building it.
Okay, so the thing is, they have to well, I don't know why, but they apparently change it, which costs money. I don't know why they change it, but like they change it, and then they afterwards they leave it there, and I honestly have no idea. And
Okay, so to answer that, like they must have built it in some period, and if it was from another Olympic game that happened, it would probably look pretty old after waiting for 4 years just to be used again. And they would also have to hire some cleaning people to clean the stadiums, and if they they'd have to do it themselves. They still have to buy the cleaning materials they use to clean the stadium.
And also like they might not have those things. Like for example, like does every place have like a bobsledding lane or whatever it's called? So they need to build it, and that costs money.
And Frank, do you have any questions?
No.
And all right, okay, I remember. The other thing is that you said for your third contention, I think, is like it's a waste of space. Not really, since if you have the stadium, you can use it more than once, like I've already said already. So, yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that people wouldn't be too happy to see a building or stadium just sitting there for 4 years without any purpose for it until the next Olympics. And yeah.
I have that as the end of grand crossfire, not ground. I'm not British yet. So we have the final focuses first with the pro.
Okay. I think that we won this debate because one, I feel like we have slightly stronger arguments on our side, and also I'm pretty sure we've responded to all of our opponents' arguments and their contentions as well. And yes, our opponents did cover some of, or like respond to some of our contentions, but I don't think they covered all of them. And I think like one or two were dropped. So that is why I think the pro side won this debate.
All right, and then the final focus from the con.
I think we've definitely won because we have provided really strong evidence and arguments to defend why that we shouldn't be hosting the Olympics. And to you saying that we haven't explained all the points, and you have listed one of the points that we didn't explain is that it increases tourism. Well, it tempts people to watch the Olympics on TV because it clearly costs less than for the traveling. And yeah.
All right, good debate, everyone. I will take the next minute or so to come to a decision, adjudicate. So sit tight. All right, let me break your suspense on this one. I will do the same thing as last time. I'll give some context before I give the decision. So I think that a lot of the debate came down to contention about the cost of the Olympics in multiple different ways, sort of the spatial or environmental impact, the actual cost of the buildings versus the revenue that the Olympics brings in. I think when it comes especially to the last few speeches, I definitely needed to hear a lot more of the sort of justification for the argument. And that goes a little bit for both teams. But I think based on the way that the debate developed, and once again, congratulations to you both for being involved in debate, both teams. It's always great to see young minds at work. I think that I end up voting for the con case in this particular debate. I think the last few speeches, because, as you're developing your skills and that sort of thing, the final focus is the place where, you explain why you should win. But it's always important to kind of remember to put in the context of the case, of both a team's case inside of there. So we're winning, our opponents didn't cover so-and-so. And then the next step, I think, when it comes to both teams' argumentation is explaining why them not covering something or the fact that you're doing better argumentating on a single point means why you should win the debate. I think the con case does just a little bit better job than the pro in that. And I think that kind of going through the debate, there's a few key points where I think the con starts to be winning over the pro. So like on the pro case, the first point about national pride is argued against by con by saying there's no national pride if neighborhoods are bulldozed. And then I don't get a lot of coverage again from the pro go after that point. So that's just kind of one example of a few other places in the debate where stuff like that happens. So always be kind of on top of what your opponents are saying and make sure that you're countering back after the rebuttal in the summary speech if you can. Of course, the summary speech, you need to crystallize it down a little bit, but you use all the time you can to do that. Any questions about the decision?
I don't think there are.
Okay. A few other things. I think that the numbered contentions is a really good idea. It makes it a lot easier for me to know what contentions you're going to. So I'd say keep that up. That was a really good thing for both teams to do. I think a pretty good usage of slotting in the citations or where you're getting the information. So good job on that. Just be on top of your flowing, your note taking on your opponent when your opponent is speaking to make sure that you're hitting the points that you need to hit when it comes time for your team to speak again. And remember that you can always go to the clock. You don't need to stop early. You have 4, 3, 2 minutes in your speeches. Try to use all of it you can to cover everything. And yeah, I think that's kind of the main things. So make sure to stay on top of what your opponents are saying. Keep track of all that. Use all your time. And add some more context to what you're saying. Any questions? Solid. Is there a third debate or is it just 2?
Just 2.
Gotcha. Great. Well, congratulations to both teams and hope you enjoy the rest of your night, your evening.
I think we can now return to the main room.
Nice job, Derek.
Thank you. You did a good job too.
I got the exact person and the exact sport you were gonna pick.
Okay.
I literally guessed you would do Tiger Woods since he's like the biggest golf player.
You guessed the person.